Welcome back to the 2017 FIM CEV Repsol. We're live here from the Circuito de Jerez in Andalusia. We've had European Talent Cup, we've had Moto3, and now it's the Moto2 European Championship. 17 laps, the longest race today over the 4.423 kilometre circuit. 5 left-hand turns and 8 right, of course, running a clockwise direction. 13 turns in total with the fearsome dry sack hairpin, which sees some brilliant overtaking opportunities, and also the corner just before Cito Pond's turn 5, the right-hander, always very interesting. Now, of course, the Moto2 European Championship, it's incredibly close at the top between the two title protagonists of Ricky Cardús and Eric Granado. Let's just run you through that, because Eric Granado currently leads the way after 4 wins on the bounce. An unbelievable feat from the Brazilian rider, who's really come into form over the last couple of months or so. His nearest rival, Ricky Cardús, of course, didn't score in the opening 2 rounds. That's because he, of course, was not racing in Albacete. Unfortunately for him, it was only 1 race, but he's had a string of victories and second-place finishes. The only blot in his copybook was race number 2 at Estoril. It all went Pete-Tong for him there, unfortunately, because he tried to find his way up the inside of his title rival Granado into the chicane. Bit off a bit more than he could chew. They collided and he went down the road. Only took 5 points at the end of the race. Big shame there for him. But nonetheless, there he is. Ricky Cardús heading out of pit lane. And he will start today on pole position as well. Again, one of the only riders who improved his time in the afternoon, at least inside the top 10. There's 18 riders on the grid in total for this Moto2 race. We've got 15 Moto2 entrants, and then of course we've got the Superstock 600 class with 3 entrants. We'll run you through those in a few minutes. There's a couple of new names to bring you on the board as well. But it's Ricky Cardús, there he is, who's actually got some matching leathers to his bike as well. He's not just racing the traditional white and orange ones that we've seen throughout the course of the season. So he's got some to match his motorcycle, and he's really going for a title charge. And who can blame him as well? It looks like he could be in good contention for that. As we said, second in the championship. There's still 35 points. Being the, sorry, apologies, 25 points, I should say, being the difference between Eric Granado and Ricky Cardús in terms of the top 2 in the championship. But regardless, it's a very impressive feat, considering that, of course, he missed a couple of rounds. And it's actually very impressive as well for Eric Granado, because he's scored in every single round so far this season. And with those 4 wins, as I say, he's really brought himself on song this year. Just completing the sighting lap now is Ricky Cardús, getting some heat into his Dunlop tyres. Brilliant to see that Calix machine and the Cardús racing outfit doing so well this season, because of course Xavier Cardús is not racing here this weekend. I found out earlier on today whilst talking to the team that he very unfortunately broke his hand in a Supersport crash when he was racing a couple of weeks ago, and so he's just flying solo this weekend. Is Ricky.
Yeah, it's a real shame when you get injured sort of, you know, mid-season, but not quite in the right place to be able to recover straight over summer break. So yeah, we'll hopefully see him back soon.
Indeed, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Ricky Cardús, as we can see there, just popping his way onto the grid, and alongside him will line up his title rival Eric Granado. He's not too far behind him, about half a second or so, but Cardús looks like he's been on good form, has been on good form. There's no doubt about it. He's been very quick so far this weekend. It'll be interesting to see whether that is able to be converted into a race win, as Cardús just slots his way past Dimas Eki. We'll talk more about Dimas actually as well, because we know we have a lot of Indonesian fans who like to tune in to the FIM CEV Repsol just to find out how Dimas is doing, and he's not doing too badly at all so far this season. His best ever in the FIM CEV Repsol, and chasing another podium. But there is the pole man, Ricky Cardús, 29 years old, 2 wins so far this year, 5 podiums, and of course the 2 pole positions, including this one. And as you can see there, what an unbelievable record he's had, aside from that race 2 at Estoril, of course, as we mentioned just a few moments ago, where he ended up going down the road after colliding with Eric Granado. But a brilliant way to continue this championship now in the business end of the season. And of course we've got one Moto2 race today, like we had at the first round at Albacete, so it's crucial to get that good result.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ricky will really be looking to make a big dent in the title fight today. Like I said, half a second clear on pole, and I mean the lap times. Ricky's Cardús's pole was a 1:43.129. Alex Marquez has got the pole record in the Moto2 World Championship this year, which is a 1:42.080. So they're a little bit further off than the Moto3 guys have been, but Cardús has really shown some authority. in qualifying, and he'll be looking to bring that over to the race, I think.
It really is. Eric Granado, I forget how young this man is, because, I mean, he raced in Moto2 in the World Championship from 16 years of age, and then took a step back, went into Moto3 for a couple of years, and has now come to the European Moto2 Championship. It's taken a bit of time to get up to speed, but nonetheless, now he's on form, he's got the right bike, he's got the right environment and team behind him. He's just absolutely unstoppable at the moment. And if we get a title fight between Cardoso and Granado, I don't think there'll be too many people unhappy to be watching that at home.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's one of those riders that's had quite a prolific career, even though he's still only young. And yeah, it was great to see him really on song this year. But then obviously Ricky Cardoso has a lot of experience. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out if it does end up really going down to the wire. Because, yeah, obviously everything for Cardoso Moto2 World Championship here. You know, he's really shown on the world stage. He's had, you know, like mid-top 10s as well. So he's very, very experienced rider. In some ways, it's surprising that he was the one that crashed out in Estoril. But I'm sure he'll be wanting to make amends for that straight away. And what better stage than the cathedral of Spanish motorcycle racing?
What a way to put it. I like that. Very nice indeed. Yeah, Eric Granado, he's a very impressive rider. Ricky Cardoso, as Fran was just talking about, but Eric Granado as well. And I have to say, I'm mighty, mighty impressed with those guys. Next to the rest, well, actually best of the rest, I should say, in the championship is actually Stephen Odendahl. He's 101 points, the reigning Moto2 European champion. Lines up third on the grid. So the top three in the championship reflects the top three order on the starting grid, which is very, very impressive indeed. We'll come to Stephen, I'm sure, in just a few moments' time as preparations are taking place down on the grid in Circuito de Jerez. Yeah,
definitely. Odendahl and Granado were so close in qualifying. I think that's 200ths, 2000ths.
Let's have a look. Yeah, 2000ths of a second. Yeah, 0.666 for Granado, 43.666 and 43.668.
And then, incredibly as well, Ono actually has the exact same lap time as Odendahl.
Well, that's
at the head of the second row, but obviously the next fastest lap for Odendahl must have given them that edge to take that front row.
Consistency at its finest, more than anything.
Definitely. So it shows it's going to be an incredibly close fight there. Maybe Cardoso might have that pace to start to get away.
We've got a donkey on the track as well, so unfortunately it's only a puppet one with Stephen Odendahl's girlfriend Nisa alongside him, and the reigning Moto2 champion, as we have said in the European class. Very much looking forward to seeing how Stephen can do. The thing is with that bike is it's been an incredibly quick starter, but over the course of a race, over the longevity of it, it just seems to have a problem with its tyres. It seems to wear out the tyres a bit more, and it's all a work in progress, of course, being a completely different chassis to what else we've seen. But here's a man I'm very impressed with. His previous best qualifying before yesterday was 10th position. Hiroki Ono, the Japanese rider, 4th place, first ever second row start in Moto2.
Yeah, that's a great performance, and obviously with teammate reigning champion, it's great, literally exactly the same lap time. So he can really take a lot of heart from that going into this race. You know, he'll be hoping to really make a dent in the front guys if he can keep that pace consistently throughout the race, or at least, you know, stay with those guys for a while.
Here's a man who made a burst onto the scene in Moto2 in the Saxo Ring, of course. Unbelievable qualifying that Hector Garzo had. Unfortunately, all in a bit pear-shaped for him in the race, but nonetheless, he's done himself the world of good, and he's been, again, a rider that's been very quick so far this season. We'll be interested to see if he's going to end up in the world stage full-time next year. I reckon probably another year in the European Championship, and then maybe we'll be able to think about it. Again, it's only his first ever year on a 600cc bike for Garzo.
Yeah, Garzo was incredible in the World Championship when he came in. I think even more so because Xavi Vierge especially this year has been consistently an incredible performer in that championship. So to even still be able to make people really take note of your name and in such few opportunities, I think reflects really well, especially when you've got the record of Vierge, you know, in the same outfit.
Absolutely. Well, this is the man who lines up alongside him. It's his new teammate for this weekend. Replacing Mark Luna is Javier Orellana, who lines up on the outside of row number 2 in 6th position. So great result there. First time ever on the Tech 3 bike, as far as I understand, and he was just 0.02 of a second slower than his teammate, which is a mighty, mighty impressive feat for the Spanish rider. We'll talk more about him over the course of the race. Here's the Indonesian rider, Dina Seki. I was reading in the press release from the Astra Honda team before this weekend that he is certainly going to be aiming to get on the podium this weekend. Of course, he's only got one opportunity to do so, but nonetheless, he's looked very, very quick indeed over the course of a race. So anything can happen in motorcycle racing. It usually does. It all went a bit pear-shaped for him in Estoril when he ended up crashing out on the final lap. But nonetheless, anything can happen, as we say. Meanwhile, this is a man who has been making some serious progress in the Moto2 World Championship. He replaced Yoli Hernandez at Brno. Sorry, was it Brno? I'm trying to think. It was Brno, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Brno. There we are. Replaced Yoli Hernandez at Brno for the AGR team. Joe Roberts in the AGR team here, racing here this weekend. Finished in 10th position in his first ever World Championship race in the soaking wet conditions. Yeah, absolute brute of a ride in the rain. Incredible performance. And yeah, certainly, again, he had fantastic pace in Misano in the wet as well, Joe Roberts. So, you know, we'll have to see how that can translate into the dry. Obviously, make some progress, but yeah, great show from him. Yeah, looking forward to seeing how the American gets on. Here's the man who lines up alongside him, Lukas Tolovic, for the Forward Junior team. I was having a chat with Lukas this morning as well and finding out about what he's going to be doing for 2017. He said probably another year in the European Championship. Fight for the title is his aim, and then of course maybe going up to the World Championship in 2019. Anything can happen, of course, and he did a test for the Forward team in Austria, actually replacing Fellini, because I think Fellini was injured after one of the crashes. He's David Sanchis. We haven't seen that much of him so far this season. It's been relatively quick over the last couple of rounds as the Spanish rider. Of course, he replaced Augusto Fernandez, who rides with the speed-up team for next year, with Carmelo Morales alongside as well. Good to see Carmelo here this weekend, and of course, we do miss him in the CEV paddock because we don't have the superbike class anymore. But nonetheless, he's doing a great job on the superbikes in the other category that he now races in. But yeah, definitely king of the superbikes was Carmelo. It also amazes me because he's in his 40s now, as well as 30s or 40s, isn't he? So he's an elder statesman for a bike rider, shall we say? Definitely an elder statesman. Although, you know, we obviously have a very high-profile example of what you can keep doing if you still love the sport in Valentino Rossi. Yeah. So, you know, you shouldn't be too discouraged by the number. You know, it's how young you feel inside. Absolutely. Of course it is. Of course it is. There's Federico Fellini, who we just saw. He's signed up for Moto2 World Championship next year for the Tasca Racing outfit. He'll be lining up alongside Simone Corsi. That'll be a very interesting Italian duo. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see Tasca with two bikes as well. Obviously, this year they just had Simeon, so get some data sharing and see if they can make a bit of a leap forward. Yeah, I think we all pretty much know where Xavier Simeon is going to be going for next year. The cameraman's ushered off the grid, though, as we get ready to get this warm-up lap underway. 18 riders, as we said. We've got 3 Stock 600 riders here this weekend, headed by Laura Martinez. We'll tell you about that in just a few moments. Here's the grid. Ricky Cardouz, Eric Granado, Stephen Odendahl on row 1. Row 2 is Hiroki Yono, Hector Garzo and Javier Orellana. Row 3 is Dina Zecchi, Joe Roberts and Lukas Tolovic. So the top three rows separated by just over a second. So incredibly close racing between those top 10 riders. David Sanchis is on row number 4 with Federico Fellini and Marcel Brenner alongside. Jason Uribe on row 5 with Pontius Sturlin, and then Laura Martinez and Felipe Legallo on row number 6. And they are the Stock 600 riders of Laura Martinez and Felipe Legallo. Laura Martinez, who has been racing in the Supersport class in Spain for the last couple of seasons or so, been doing very well as it transpires. So good to see her on a stock bike here for this weekend. And of course, Felipe Legallo, a regular face in the championship throughout the 2017 season. Well, I was expecting Carlos Verdaglo to be racing here this weekend, but for some reason it doesn't look like he's going to be making the grid. Likewise, Jamie Edwards also. We did have Jamie Edwards back in the paddock. I caught up with him yesterday. He was absent the last couple of rounds because of a shoulder injury that he ended up tearing all the ligaments. Very nasty incident for him. He's now back, but unfortunately it's not at full fitness and doesn't look like he was going to be able to get the race distance. So nonetheless, a good opportunity to test for the weekend, if nothing else. So, brilliant stuff. So, Ricky Cardouz, Eric Granado and Stephen Odendahl on your front row of the grid. There is the man on pole position with those brand new leathers on his bike. So, he looks like he's a good part of the team. I think he's supported by a local Ford dealer as well, because he's got some sponsorship on the back of his leathers too. Yeah, there seems to be a bit of a leather swapping going on between the Cardouzes quite often. You see in the Catalan Dirt Track Championship as well. Ferran often is riding with an 88, although the bikes has the 77 on the front.
So yeah, all in line now. Obviously fighting for a title.
Speaking of leather
Sunday best on.
Speaking of leather swapping, you told me an interesting story about Yoni Hernandez in the Endurance World Championship.
Apparently, yes, he's now riding with Freddie Spencer replica leathers on. Had some sort of problem in his first or second stint with that Honda team, and yeah, Spencer leathers. So
I
interesting.
Like that. I think Fast Fred's back out again on track, aren't they? Meanwhile, here's the man on pole position, Ricky Cardo, slotting into the outside of the front row. Inside of the front row, but in third position is Stephen Odendaal, and then the man in the middle. The top three, of course, on the grid. The top three represented in the championship. Let's get ready then to go racing here at the Circuito de Jerez. Who will lead the way down towards the first corner? Who will lead the way at the end of the 17-lap race? We're about to find out. The green flag is waved at the back. Look to the top left corner of your screen. Wait for the red lights to come on, which they do so now, and they go away, and we go racing. Bit of a wheelie from Odendaal off the outside of the front row, but who will get the drag down towards turn one? It was a very clean getaway from Ricky Cardo, who cuts the nose off of Eric Granado. Into the first corner we go, and Joe Roberts also with a brilliant start up into third position, but gets mugged down into fourth place by Hector Garzo, the fast starting Spaniard. Javier Oriana into the back of Joe Roberts. Absolute drama there. Big shame for the Spanish rider. That unfortunately is his first ever Moto2 European race done and dusted by the second corner. It was unfortunate. It looked like he was going in there a bit too quickly, and he might be able to get back on, but nonetheless he's going to have a huge amount of time to make up. A big shame there for Javier Oriana, but drama in the opening couple of corners, Fran.
Yeah, shame for the former European Junior Cup winner there. Just not enough space, two bikes. You know, luckily he's got up, seems okay. If he can rejoin, obviously he's going to have a bit of a task on now, but looks like that's the race over for him. Yeah,
it's unfortunately good night Vienna for him. Meanwhile, Ricky Cardo is leading the way. He's already putting out a bit of an advantage to the man in second place of Eric Granado. Still, Hector Garzo in third position, and then he's closely followed by Lucas Tilovic. So that's a brilliant start by Tilovic, because he's gotten up from 9th on the grid into P4.
Yeah, I think Ricky Cardo's now we wanting to emulate his good friend Jorge Lorenzo here. Straight out the blocks, get a nice gap, concentrate on, yeah, exactly, making that gap and keeping that gap. But I mean, they're keeping him honest at the moment, but they will have to be careful knowing that he does have that pace. But obviously, you know, the race is a different story to qualifying. You know, one hot lap does not win you a race.
Granado getting
pretty close there,
yeah. My goodness me, I love watching Granado's riding style. He looks like he's so out of control, but yet so perfectly in control at the same time.
This is what I adore about Moto2. You see it in the European Championship and in the World Championship, so sideways. You know, like the Dominic Egerter, Sam Lowe is really just backing it in.
Speedway style.
It's incredible. It's a really good spectacle, you know. So yeah, it looks like Granado intends to stay on the back of Cardice in this race, and they're already sort of starting to make a gap, aren't they?
Indeed, yeah, very big shame for Joe Roberts after that meteoric start. He was up inside the top three, and then unfortunately getting collected by Javier Oriana. He's still in the race, is Joe Roberts, but he's down in 7th position at the moment, so he's lost a bit of ground. He's behind Dimas Eki, and he's behind Stephen Odendaal as well. Eki into 6th place. Not a bad getaway from the Indonesian rider. However, one who's not had such a good getaway is, in fact, the two NTS bikes have just gone backwards off the start, really. Odendaal gone from 3rd down to 5th, and Hiroki Ono gone from 4th down to 8th position. So not a good day in the office in the first lap, at least.
Yeah, certainly off the line it looked like Cardice was the one that really got it hooked up all the way into turn 1. A few other guys, you know, sort of jostling for position, not quite as smooth. But, you know, it's all still pretty close together. Odendaal's, you know, pretty close to Tilovic, so it's not, you know, it's not game over, nothing's lost yet, just head down. And,
exactly, they look like such fun bikes to ride, these Moto2 machines as well, don't they? They just look absolutely wayward and sideways and brilliant in every conceivable way.
Yeah, like I said, I love Moto2. You know, you quite often don't get the, well, you hardly ever get the same racing as you will in Moto3 and sort of incredible group races and stuff, but I love Moto2. But then I'm a real fan of the duel in racing. I do like just a one-on-one fight for it. So looks like that might be what we end up with today.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting to see actually what happens with Moto2, of course, in 2018 as well. We'll come on to that more later on, because of course we've got Triumph coming into the championship in 2019, so we'll have to wait and see whether we get perhaps a Triumph engine in the European Championship next year. It's obviously in a good platform for testing and experimenting this championship, so we'll have to wait and see whether something like that happens.
Yeah, I think it's interesting times ahead for Moto2. Obviously, it's been with the same engine supplier, the World Championship Honda, for
7 years.
Yeah,
it'll be 8 years this year, won't it?
So it's going to be all change. It's going to be interesting how that affects, you know, the chassis manufacturers as well. Especially, obviously, the Kalex has been the bike to beat for quite some time. That'll be an interesting transition for them. Will also be interesting to see how it affects those guys who have been trying to, you know, make their mark more recently. Obviously, KTM brand new this year in the World Championship. And then also Suter, who obviously world champions with Marc Marquez. And then now winners last time out in the rain at Misano with Dominic Egerter. So, you know, it could be a great leveler to have all, you know, such a big change in the championship and see what they make of it.
It certainly could do. There's a great battle for third position going on between Hector Garzo and Lucas Tulovic, with Stephen Odendaal also coming into play as well. So this could be another podium for Odendaal. He took his first one back in Valencia, it was, in fact, with the NTS team. And he'll be looking to try and repeat that same feat. Doesn't look like he's going to be in contention for the victory. But then again, stranger things have happened in motorcycle racing. We saw exactly what happened on the last lap of Estoril. So it's just a case of keeping your head down. But a great race so far for Lucas Tulovic on that forward junior team. Really doing himself the world of good. By comparison, his teammate Federico Fellini is down in 9th position. So he's not had an ideal start as the Italian rider. And one of the things that surprised me, actually, when I was talking to Tulovic earlier, I said, "Oh, how old are you?" And he was 17. 17 years of age.
Yeah, it's some of these guys really, you know, obviously Moto2, it sounds in so many ways like they should be a bit older than that. Yeah. But obviously then you do get some guys who make the transition over, you know. Not every single rider that ends up on the world stage comes through junior Moto3, Moto3, Moto2 on the world stage. Obviously Jordi Torres is a great example of that. Who won the European Championship, I think, twice. Sorry, I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head. But and then obviously race winner in Moto2 World Championship. And then also, yes, you've got it there. Sorry, 2011, 2012. No,
20. Yeah, blimey, crikey.
Yeah, it seems a long time ago now. But then yeah, race winner obviously Sachsenring, I believe it was.
Yeah,
incredible race. And then, you know, now obviously World Superbike race winner as well. So you can certainly make that move over. But like I said, these guys are a little bit further off in lap time than the Moto3 guys are sometimes. But then again, Ricky Carduce's record shows as well you can be incredibly competitive. Like Carduce, regular point scoring top 10 finisher when he's been in the Moto2 World Championship. And even on the KTM, obviously he's KTM test rider.
God, I have to say, I was just watching Odendaal backing it in to the final corner there. He has got such a wayward style. He's got such a unique riding style as well, because he turns in with his shoulder effectively off the motorcycle. I just thought he was going to go straight on. There was no way he was going to stop that.
I think your mouth was making as many shapes as his bike.
Yeah, something like that. It was quite incredible. Odendaal there now in 4th place ahead of Hector Garzo. So Garzo down into 5th place. Dimaseki not too far behind this group as well. There you can see him just a couple of bike lengths away from Hector Garzo. Will the Indonesian rider be able to get himself a good top 5 finish? He was hoping, as we said whilst we were talking you through the grid, to get himself onto the podium, and he's certainly going the right way about that at the moment. And
yes, and I think it'd be interesting to see if Joe Roberts can start to close up on these guys now, because there's quite a fair gap behind Eki back to Joe Roberts, a couple of seconds. So see if he can make any inroads into that. Obviously still got a long way to go in the race, and he's recovering from that incident at the start. So yeah, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that, and also if these guys don't start doing anything too crazy. Yeah,
it's Moto2, anything can happen. Mind you, that said, anything can happen in motorcycle racing. It seems to be the phrase of the day, doesn't it?
Yeah, Moto2 usually is a little bit calmer, you know, so we'll see. But you can see now Carduce starting to make a bit of daylight in between him and Granado, so we'll have to see if Granado's going to push and try and make that up. Obviously, that can be a dangerous tactic, and you can use that. Again, Lorenzo, fantastic tactic, always did that in 2015. Take off like a shot at the start, knowing that Marc Marquez might take the bait. And certainly in Aragon, he said that's what the plan was, and that's exactly what Marquez did, just pushed a bit too far. So we'll see if Granado can keep up with him, or if he has to just start thinking about where his limit is and what's at stake, obviously with the championship lead.
Great move from Dimaseki up the inside of Hector Garzo into the final corner, now up into the top 5 for the first time in this race for the Indonesian rider. Brilliant stuff. He's now going to be trying to latch onto the rear end of Stephen Odendaal, and we know that Eki, of course, has got some good connections with the Astra Honda team, but also, of course, the Honda Asia team in the Moto2 World Championship, so it could only be perhaps a matter of time before we see him on the world stage. And I have to say, given the performances that we've seen from Eki so far this year, that would definitely be, I think, a well-deserved seat if he's able to get himself consistently inside the top 5 and top 3.
Yeah, some good performances, and it's great to see, you know, so many coming over from Asia and really, you know, being successful. Obviously, Shireen as well. Is Malaysian. Obviously, you've got Petronas on Ricky Carduce's bike as well, in sponsors as well. It's not just the riders. And then, you know, the Asia Talent Cup has made some great talents, you know, from for the lower classes. But yeah, it's great to see. And obviously, Shireen as well as winning in the CEV podium at Misano last time out. So
Absolutely.
Again, transferable. But yeah, it's great, and it's such an incredible passion for the sport that they have in Indonesia, Malaysia, and in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're adding another round to the MotoGP calendar next year with Thailand. So it's just fantastic, and it's great to see the representation on the grid as well as in the grandstands.
Yeah, we know there's a huge Indonesian following for the likes of Dimaseki and Andy Galang as well, who of course competes in Moto3. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see whether we perhaps end up going to Indonesia in 5 or 6 years' time. It could happen.
Yeah, there's been talk of it. Certainly, there's a preliminary agreement for that to look to be a possibility in the future. Obviously, at the moment now, like I said, we've got Thailand confirmed, which has given us some great races in Superbike. So, you know, that's a great venue. And again, it's just incredible the amount of interest in the people that come there. It's, you know, it's a fair way from Bangkok, but the crowd numbers are just crazy. It's
amazing. It's very much like Aragon. Aragon, a circuit that's in the middle of nowhere, really, in terms of what it's surrounded by. But you always get good crowds there and good attendance. And again, it just obviously it's a European country, so it's a bit of a different. Yeah,
definitely. I think Aragon's got such racing history as well. Obviously, it's the street racing. I think it's street racing, road racing around Alcañiz is the reason why they originally built that track there, and it's just fantastic. But I think, yeah, certainly like Sepang's always a sellout as well. It's just great interest. And then Motegi, obviously, in GP has a bit of an added draw as the home race for so many of the manufacturers. Absolutely.
Stephen Odendaal really cracking the whip now. He's set the fastest lap last time around, and he is all over the rear fairing of Lukas Tulovic. Into the left-hander of turn number 8 we go, then into the right of turn number 9. Surely he's not going to be thinking about a move through there. No, not quite, but he's lining himself up for one. Of course, the reigning European champion, Stephen Odendaal, surely he's going to be stepping up to the World Championship full-time next year. We know that the NTS chassis will be in Moto2 next year with the RW Racing Squad. Whether the NTS team will officially confirm an entry in the World Championship as a factory team next year remains to be seen. But we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, here comes Odendaal. We're going hard on the brakes into the final turn. And again, very wayward style. Dimaseki closes right up on the brakes to the South African.
Yeah, I was a little worried there. He was going to take that opportunity.
Look at that, the team willing him on. This is brilliant stuff from NTS. He says he feels so much more at home, does Odendaal, with the NTS team. He said the bike feels great, the team feel great. And he just looks really happy and brilliant.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Obviously, reigning champion. And then now just has so many good things to say about this bike, although
jumping onto a new one for this year as well.
Yeah, completely. It's but it's great to see him still at the sharp end, you know, really confident in his talent. And yeah, completely new, like you say. So he's really on a charge now. I think going to be looking for a way through pretty soon, if not now.
Into turn number 5.
Possibly.
Was it into Sito Pons? Surely that's a very risky place to overtake, but he could be getting himself onto the podium over the brow of the hill we go. And indeed, yes, he is. Stephen Odendaal up into 3rd place, but Tulovic and Dimaseki coming into the party as well. We go hard on the brakes into Drysack. Meanwhile, it looks like the leads close up by just a couple of bike lengths. Tulovic, well, my goodness me, I was going to make all sorts of noises, let alone all sorts of shapes I was going to make then as we went into Drysack, but he managed to hold onto it. Did Tulovic there, the 17-year-old German.
That looked like it had potential to be a bit of a risk there, definitely. But now all clean and sorted. I think it'd be interesting to see now what Odendaal can do, because the gap to the two guys just ahead of them has opened up a little bit. And if he can really keep this pace and get his head down, we'll see if he can get away from these guys and then even maybe in contention. And Granada's really closed back up on Carduce again, but Carduce seems to be, you know, just
managing
the pace. Yeah. Again, like I said, super experienced rider. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
I have to say, it's an interesting thing if NTS do, at least the factory team, it's interesting if they do enter the World Championship full-time next year, because of course the year after they go to Triumph Engine, so everyone's going to have to redesign anyway. So it's a bit of a blank canvas, but it just seems a bit of an unusual step, shall we say.
It's always interesting with things like this, yeah, definitely. Like, obviously, KTM came into it, but had a little bit longer. But then, obviously, they've been pretty fast straight out the box. And Ricky Carduce is test rider for them, and they've been in, you know, podium and even contention for the win, or certainly on pace until a few moments of bad luck. But so yeah, it'd be really interesting to see how it stacks up. But yeah, all change soon for Moto2, and certainly, you know, I think it's always interesting how you end up with a status quo after a while when everyone's, you know, regulations haven't changed, etc. So it'd be really great to see that, and I think they'll sound incredible.
It will sound brilliant. We've heard the samples of the engine, of course. There was an audio clip that went around, wasn't there, a few weeks back? And I highly recommend you get yourself onto YouTube and have a listen to that, because it sounded absolutely beautiful. Meanwhile, Eric Granado, the man in second place, set the fastest lap last time around. He was monstrously fast compared to Ricky Carduce, and it was about 0.3 of a second a lap quicker, and you can see that gap has come down quite significantly over the last few corners or so, and we could be seeing a change of lead before too long either. Out of the turn number 10 we go on to the sweeping right-hand bends of turn 11 and then turn 12. So close, and now Tulovic is going to be coming under threat from fourth place as well, because he's got Garzo all over his back bumper too. Where has Dimasecki gone from the picture as well? I'm just trying to have a look. No, he's still there in fourth place, sorry. I'm just making sure. Yeah,
he's still chasing down Odendahl.
Indeed, and there is Laura Martinez, Felipe Gallo, I apologise, who sat right on the racing line as he came over, but he fortunately manages to pull off to the inside of the track and lets the faster riders on the Moto2 machines back through, because of course he's on a stock 600 machine, which is quite a lot down on performance, shall we say, compared to the Moto2 bikes. Meanwhile, there's Odendahl backing the bike in, still in third place. Could be another really good podium for the South African rider if he's able to hold on, but Dimasecki is going to be chasing with just under 8 laps now remaining. But the gap at the front is still very close between Granado and Carduce, and you can see 0.3 of a second. Bit of a bobble though for Carduce into turn number 5 of Sito Pons, and that gap just creeps up by a couple of tenths of a second there, Fran.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out between these two guys. Obviously a lot at stake, but then also in that way the pressure is on Carduce, because he's the guy that needs to make up the points, and an extra 5 makes a big difference. But yeah, pretty much the same lap time last time around, so it's going to be interesting. In fact, yeah, just 1,000th apart over the line that time. So you know, but a couple of tenths, that's nothing too bad with the 7.5 to go. Granado needs to not panic that he's going to get away and just keep plugging away at it. So yeah, we'll have to see. Further down, it looks like Joe Roberts has hit a bit of a wall in trying to catch those guys ahead of him after that incident at the start. But Ono's still really, really hot on his tail, so that could be something to watch over the last few laps. And yeah, Eki, really quite impressive, not letting Odendahl get away at all.
Yeah, it's really very impressive indeed. I have to say the field is a bit stagnant towards the latter half of the top 10, as you said there, Fran. From Joe Roberts down, nothing's really changed over the last couple of laps. Davitan Chis in 10th position as well, but he is miles ahead of Marcel Brenner.
He is. He's just fighting with Fellini, and then you've got quite a big gap there outside the top 10. But obviously still points up for grabs, and you never know what could happen ahead of you.
Exactly. So anything can happen, as we know. So Ricky Carduce still with that advantage. He's just managed to pull out a bit more of a gap, 7.91 tenths now, so nearly 0.8 of a second over Granado in second position. So doing a good job there, and of course on home turf as well, he'll be wanting to take that victory back once again, and it could bring an end to Granado's success that he's had so far. Yeah, definitely. Again, Carduce managed to put in a 43.8 there, and Granado is into the 44s just, but you can see that difference. So it'll be interesting to see if he can respond or not, because otherwise I think Carduce is going to pull the pin, and it'll be just a case of keeping calm to the line. Well, of course, Granado is on 140 points in the championship. Carduce is on 115, so a bit of a difference between the two, 25 points separating them in terms of the title. So if Granado then failed to finish, and then Cardo's managed to close out. They'll be level on points going into the penultimate round at Aragon. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, but nonetheless, we'll have to wait and see what does indeed happen. Meanwhile, still being harried by Di Masecchi is Stephen Odendahl. Still right on the rear wheel. Doesn't look like he's managing to find a way past at the moment. He's not quite close enough to launch a move, and of course there's still 6 laps, or there will be 6 laps at the end of this one remaining, so just biding his time very nicely. He really does get good corner exit on that bike, doesn't he, Di Masecchi? That Cadillac seems to have really good traction. Yeah,
they seem to just I don't know if he's waiting possibly, but he's certainly now had it confirmed that he can stay with Odendahl, so he's definitely in podium contention there. So it'd be interesting to see if he does choose to strike, if he thinks he can get past him and then head off. But that remains to be seen. Obviously, as well, he's got to get past him and stay past him, which is easier in your head than it can be in reality.
Well, exactly. Of course, we've got Moto3 coming up after this. Then after Moto3, we've got the European Talent Cup to bookend the day. It's the battle for 5th place that's going on. Hector Garzo and Lukas Tulovic in and amongst that battle. Still, Garzo on the Tech 3 machine ahead of Tulovic at the moment. It can be interesting to see where Garzo ends up next year as well. He did himself the world of good with trying to get himself a World Championship ride after substituting for Xavi Vierge. Nonetheless, though, I do reckon he'll probably end up spending another year in this championship just to get a bit more experience on board the Mistral machine.
Well, there's a good Tech 3 example of what experience can do for you over just going for youth this year, isn't there, with Johan Zarco? So, you know, there's no rush. There isn't in the eyes of some, but it's always good to move up when you're ready.
Exactly. And of course, the only team running Tech 3 next year, of course, is the Tech 3 factory team. And they've already got their riders in the form of Bo Benschneider and Remy Gardner. So there's no openings in the World Championship, at least on that machine. So we'll have to wait and see what it does indeed happen. Hard on the brakes we go, though, into turn 13. Odendahl looking more and more ragged. I wonder whether those tyre life gremlins are going to be coming back to haunt him.
He just seems to take a very different entry into that corner. Ecky's really quite tight into there, but Odendahl really letting it just drift in a bit wider. But it'd be interesting to see, because that's going to look like an open door in a while to Di Masecchi. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But
somebody's gone down. Is that Garzo that's gone down from 6th place? It is. Hector Garzo just in the background. His shot goes down at turn number 2. A big shame. We were just singing his praises, and unfortunately the commentator's curse comes back to bite us. That's going to be 2 Tech 3 machines in the gravel trap.
This is why I prefer writing as my job, because I'm writing about what's happened after the fact, and obviously there's no kind of witchcraft.
That's a real shame.
Yeah, that is a shame for him, going pretty well there, so be disappointed with that. And again, with one race, that's going to... You know,
exactly.
You've got to wait a while to bounce back from that now, but I'm sure he will.
It must be really disappointing, of course, for the team with a double non-score after that as well. They've come all this way and, you know, put all the preparation to the bikes. It's the way it goes in racing, unfortunately, sometimes. So you can't predict what's going to happen. That's the main thing.
I don't think we've mentioned that yet.
Have we not?
No, we've not mentioned the unpredictability of racing, but now's the time.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing as well. It's disappointing for the rider, but it must be heartbreaking. You mechanics team guys, they work so hard as well. And it's disappointing, but you know, you win together, you lose together. That's the way it goes. So unfortunately today, not going to be a great end for the Tech 3 team, but you know, not too long till we're back on track.
No, exactly. Of course, we've got the next round of the championship coming up from Aragon, which is 1 week after MotoGP. Which we are so apologies about 1 week after MotoGP. In fact, it's in October, isn't it? It's on the 8th of October is when the CEV is there. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to be a very exciting round, I'm sure. Aragon is a superb circuit as well. And of course, you've got that reverse corkscrew, which is one of the most almighty corners.
I personally am a huge fan of Motorland. I think it's a gorgeous track, gorgeous setting, and so different, you know, like Jerez. I think this is the great thing about so many of the Spanish tracks. They all have such different characteristics. And Aragon's something special, I think, and it's fast, technical, and it should be great. And it's even better when you've got it coming towards the end of a title fight. Obviously GP heads there equal on points, but there's a few more rounds to go, whereas these guys, it'll really be ramping up with the title fight.
Well, hard on the brakes with Joe Roberts with a puff of smoke coming there from the back. Was that a problem, or was that just a bit of dust being kicked over? Hopefully it was the latter. He, meanwhile, is interlocked in a bit of a duel with Hiroki Ono, the other NTS machine. I have to say it's great that NTS are making this investment in Moto2, because we haven't seen a new chassis manufacturer in a long, long time in the... aside from KTM, of course, in the championship. What am I talking about? But in terms of the European Championship, it's great that they're running two bikes and... investing their time and of course putting the finance behind it and doing a good job as well. They've really developed that bike. It's of course had the hands of the likes of Alan Tesher, who was on it last year, so it's had some good riders on board that machine.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to see new investment in the sport on whatever level or from whatever kind of background. But it's great, and it's great as well. It's an incentive when you start to get that success. You know, like again, KTM, like you mentioned. Slightly. No, it's great to see that, and it's a great incentive to keep going when you arrive on the scene and then you really do start to get results, podiums, you know. So it bodes well, certainly. Oh, big moment there for Ricky Cardouse coming out of turn number 3. The rear end was sliding and bucking all over the place. Eric Granado, that gap has remained consistent over the last couple of laps, but I think it might be on its way down, you know. Well, last lap they were 3 thousandths apart over the line. You can separate them with a wallet's width, could you? Incredibly close, but I mean that moment for Cardouse will have made very good viewing for Granado, and you know, I'm sure he'll be pushing on to stay in there. He's run it a little bit hot there, as a little bit sideways. But yeah, no, it's pretty close again now, just half a second, and they've really dropped the guys behind. You can see on the side of Granado's bike as well that there was a 15 logo, which is celebrating 15 years for the Promo racing team in motorcycle racing from 2002 up until the present day, which is really nice to see them celebrating an anniversary. Meanwhile, this battle for third place isn't over between Odendahl and Eki. Definitely not. Still locked together, and pretty comparable lap times, about a tenth apart last time. But you know, that can just concertina constantly. It's yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good fight. Should be very exciting indeed. Through Ferrari we go, and then hard on the brakes and into the hairpin, and up the inside into Lorenzo we go. And Dimaseki gets himself up into third position. That's a brilliant bit of overtaking there from the Indonesian rider. Will Odendahl think about fighting back? Will he be able to fight back? They come down the start-finish straight, head into turn 1. Under from the bubble we go. Will he think about a move? Yes, indeed he will. Odendahl fights back, but that was very close. I thought they were going to be touching wheels and fairings and all sorts then, but they fortunately kept it very clean indeed. Yeah, I think that camera angle can be a little bit scarier than maybe the angle when you're on the bike. But yeah, that was nice. You see again, Odendahl, that line into that corner. It's very wide and flowing, isn't it? Late apex. It's just not an open door, of course, but obviously, you know, it makes the job a bit easier, so we'll be looking to fight back on that. Indeed he will. We'll have to keep an eye. See, last time around now, Cardouse was quite a lot quicker, and again, that's opened up a lot. Yeah, 1.1 seconds now the advantage, isn't it, between the top two? It was half a second faster last time around, so this could be the pin pulled. Well, the carrot's been dangled for Stephen Odendahl now. He can see that, and it's on the back of Dimaseki's Kalex machine. He's going to be trying to find a way past that Astra Honda outfit, or will Dimaseki be going for his second podium of the season? Remains to be seen. I think he's, coming back already, so obviously feels like he can really give this one a good fight. Good move up the inside, but will Eki be able to find that way through again into Lorenzo? This is where Eki's really strong as well. He gets good traction over here, but is also able to carry incredible corner speed. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen as we go into Lorenzo. Of course, there's just one lap going to be remaining after this one. We're getting ready to come onto the final tour now. Hard on the brakes. Once again we go, and the leg comes out. The Rossi dangle, as it's probably going to be referred to for years to come, into Lorenzo. And Odendahl does manage to retain that position. He's got one more tour, one more time of asking, and this is the battle for the final podium place. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see now if Odendahl attacks that corner any differently if he's ahead on the final lap now. Because obviously you've had that dress rehearsal, and obviously now he knows what might be coming. So we'll have to see. Well, you said that conundrum, of course, of do you want to be in front or do you want to be behind in that corner? Exactly, yeah. I mentioned that in the European Talent Cup race. And it's, you know, I think in Moto2 it's a little bit different. You want to be in front and push in for a bit of a gap. But when you're in a big group like those guys, you know, maybe you want to be the one doing the attacking. but we'll see. I mean, obviously Odendahl faster again that time round, so I think Carduce though now 2.2 clear.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He's really just pulled the pin.
I think Granado's going to have to settle for second place. Odendahl riding incredibly defensively. You see how early he turned into Dreisack there. He's not letting any opportunity slip by him. But Eki will be there to pick up the pieces if something goes Pete Tong for him. Through the left-hander we go into turn number 8. Bucking and weaving all over the place. The tyres now are right at the end of their lifespan, and it's just a few more corners from home separating Odendahl from his fourth podium in succession, or separating Eki from his second podium of the season.
I think this one's going to be definitely a final corner special. We'll have to see.
We will indeed. Ricky Carduce, speaking of final corners, he's going to be coming round that momentarily, but it's all eyes on third position. All eyes on Ricky Carduce as we go into the final turn here at the Circuito de Jerez. What a race it's been from the 29-year-old Spaniard. He manages to get himself onto the top step of the rostrum and close up on the championship lead of Eric Granado. Brilliant race from Ricky Carduce. He takes the victory. Eric Granado finishing in second place, and the battle to the line. Who's going to get it? It is going to be Stephen Odendahl finishing in third place, just by a whisker ahead of Dimas Eki. That was incredibly close between the South African and the Indonesian rider. Brilliant racing all round. Odendahl in third, Eki in fourth, Lucas Tulovic inside the top 5. A great result there for the forward racing rider. Joe Roberts managed to get himself up into 6th place ahead of Hiroki Ono. 7th place was Hiroki, of course. 8th was David Sanchis on board the Easy Race Suter. Federico Fellini in 9th, and Jason Uribe rounding out the top 10. So a good day in the office for the AGR team with a couple of top 10 finishes. And then just outside the top 10, Pontius Durlin, Laura Martinez and Philippe Legallo, 12th and 13th. So Laura Martinez wins the Stock 600 battle. And then comes Marcel Brenner in 14th. And unfortunately, he actually pitted on lap number 9 in that race. So a bit of a shame there for Brenner. We didn't see that, unfortunately. But it looks like it probably was a technical problem for the Swiss rider. And then Hector Garza, of course, and Javier Orellana, unfortunately, failing to finish that race following what was a bit of a disappointing day in the office for the Team Wimu CMS outfit, with Orellana going down, of course, at turn number 2 on the opening lap, and then Hector Garza doing exactly the same thing, albeit in the middle stages of the race. But nonetheless, a very exciting Moto2 race, and it went right down to the very end, especially with that battle for the podium. Incredible stuff here in the FIM CEV Repsol. Don't go anywhere, though, because we've got more racing on the way for you very, very shortly indeed for the Moto3 Junior World Championship. I'm so excited to bring you this one because it's going to be a thrilling race if it's anything like what we had earlier on to start the day this morning. So the riders now just on their cool-down lap. Eric Granado popping himself into Parc Fermé, or will be in just a couple of moments' time. And they'll be down there talking to Fran, of course, in the paddock area. So we'll be finding out what his thoughts are after that race. There is Stephen Odendahl. What a great run it was from the reigning champion. Doesn't look like he's going to be defending his crown this year, which is very unfortunate. But nonetheless, we're going to keep an eye on its progress, especially over the next couple of rounds, to see whether we'll have NTS in the championship, the World Championship, I should say, full-time next year. But the crowd applauding their hometown favourite, Eric Granado. What a race. Absolutely brilliant. Sorry, Eric Granado. I should say Ricky Carduce they're applauding, rather. There is Eric Granado inside the Parc Fermé area. Doesn't look too displeased with the second place finish. And Stephen Odendahl in third place. You can see his bike on the right-hand side there. Meanwhile, though, we wait for the race victor. Ricky Carduce coming into pit lane, into Parc Fermé, and being congratulated by the Styler Bike team outfit. A brilliant race it was for him, and a great way to continue his charge in the championship. Will he be on the top step of the rostrum at the end of the season, or will that go the way of the likes of Eric Granado, or perhaps even Stephen Odendahl? Anything could happen, as we know, so we'll have to wait and find out. So the final results then from that Moto2 race here at the Circuito de Jerez. Ricky Carduce, Eric Granado and Stephen Odendahl by a whisker. As you can see, they're just under 700ths of a second ahead of Dimas Eki. Lucas Tulovic in 5th place, Joe Roberts in 6th, Hiroki Ono was 7th, David Sanchis was in 8th position, and then Federico Fellini from Forward Racing inside the top 9. Great result there for the Italian. Of course, as we mentioned earlier on, he'll be in Moto2 World Championship full-time next year for the Tasca Racing outfit. Jason Uribe, a top 10 finish for the American rider with Pontus Derland, and then Laura Martinez and Philippe Gallo being the last classified runners for the Stock 600 category. Javier Oriana, Marcel Brenner and Hector Garzo unfortunately failing to finish that race. Big shame there for both of the Team Wimmu CNS outfits, as we've already alluded to. As you can see, the fans already watching on, getting ready for another race, which will be very exciting indeed for the Moto3 Junior World Championship. Excited to bring you that one, of course, the first race. If you didn't catch it earlier on, we won't spoil the result for you, but how exciting was it? Well, very is the answer, and another 16-lap battle coming up for these riders. 44 of them, to be exact, will be ending up on the grid, which is absolutely unbelievable. I think it's one of the first times, though, this year that we haven't actually had any reserves in Moto3 either. Normally we have so many riders, we have to chuck a couple on the reserves, and then we have about 43, 44 going to race, depending, of course, on the track size and capacity and the like. All sounds to be very exciting. The sun, though, is shining here in the Andalusian region of Spain.
Okay, Ricky Cardus, incredible win today from pole. Were you managing the pace there and then pulled away at the end?
Yeah, it's a nice weekend because in all the practice and qualifying, I'm in the flow, and I'm very happy with the team because every time push me for try they have the best bike, the best setting. And in Portugal, I have a big mistake in the last race, and in Valencia I'm not good feeling into race ago. And finally this weekend I have feeling in the first moment, and I'm strong in the rhythm of the every lap. And finally today I recovered 5 points. I think I stayed 20 points for the first position, and I try to the best to try to have the best and push a lot in Aragon and Valencia.
Y ahora en castellano.
Sí, ha sido un fin de semana bueno. Venimos de 2 carreras un poco malas en Valencia y en Portugal con un gran error que eso me ha hecho perder 25 puntos. Entonces ahora tenemos que solo nos vale ganar y olvidarnos de lo que hace el primero del campeonato, y el equipo desde el primer momento me ha dado el mejor material. Estamos trabajando mucho para intentar ganarlo todo, que es nuestro deber, y ya veremos lo que pasa a Valencia.
Gracias y enhorabuena.
A vosotros.
Great to hear from Ricky Cardus. Here's the highlights of the race. It was that man who managed to get away from pole position. However, he was very challenged by Granado and the likes of Joe Roberts, who made a good start as they headed into turn 1. It was still Cardus leading from Granado, and then into turn number 2. It all kicked off further back with Javier Oriana trying to bite off a bit more than he could chew, having a wobble on the front end, and then unfortunately colliding with Joe Roberts, sending him down the road in what was only his first ever race, and it only lasted 2 corners. A big shame there for the former Moriraki 250 Junior Cup champion. Meanwhile, at the front of the race, Odendaal, he really piled the pressure onto the likes of Dimas Eki and Lukas Tolovic. Lukas Tolovic just in front of Odendaal at this stage in the race. That was the battle for the final podium position. Looked like inevitable that the South African would get ahead, and indeed he managed to, with Tolovic slotting back into the top 5. Meanwhile, the lead at the front really did get close indeed between Ricky Cardus, as Eric Granado was very close behind. Then Dimas Eki was up into 4th place. He was also ahead of Lukas Tolovic as well, very close indeed. And then the second Tech 3 bike of the day went down in the form of Hector Garzo. He unfortunately crashing at the same corner as his teammate. A big shame there for him, and that would be the end of his race. He tried getting going, but it was all in vain. Meanwhile, at the front, still Cardus led the way from Granado. Very close indeed. Then Dimas Eki pulled an absolutely blinding move up the inside, catching the reigning European champion of Odendaal unaware into Lorenzo. Got the move done and dusted. However, then just 3/4 of a lap later, it was up the inside once more for Stephen Odendaal, finding his way through. Meanwhile, pulling away out in front was Ricky Cardus. He managed to take the victory and ending the winning streak of Eric Granado. A brilliant race, and also encloses the championship up even further. In 3rd place is separated by just 7/100ths of a second. An incredible way to have the Moto2 race here at the Circuito de Jerez. Of course, we've got 2 more races for you later on this afternoon. We've got Moto3 Junior World Championship in just a few moments' time, and then after that we'll have the European Talent Cup race number 2. Absolutely brilliant stuff as we wait for the riders to go onto the podium. We'll also have Laura Martinez on the podium as well, the stock 600 wide rider, making her debut in the European Championship in 2017.
De Moto2 que acabamos de disfrutar.
On the left,
en primer lugar, y dando comienzo a la ceremonia, don Santiago Galván, vicepresidente del Circuito de Velocidad de Jerez, hace entrega del trofeo acreditativo de la victoria al representante del Team Estilo Bike, Valeriano Rodríguez. Fuerte el aplauso para él.
Team principal, and then after that we will have the trophy presented to Stephen Odendahl. No, I apologize, it will be presented to Laura Martinez first, and then I believe Stephen Odendahl for third position.
Vencedora en la categoría de Superstock 600. Laura Martinez.
There we go. A great result for Laura Martinez. What a way to get yourself involved in the championship. A fantastic result on the stock 600 machine.
Con el tercer clasificado en la categoría del europeo de Moto2, el piloto sudafricano Stephen Odendahl.
Stephen Odendahl being presented with his trophy on the podium. Surely he's going to be a shoo-in for a World Championship ride in 2018. Came so close to it at the end of last year after winning that title. Unfortunately, it didn't go too well for him. And we might see him in the World Championship again in the future. Let's not forget, of course, he was in there in 2012 as Eric Granado. Also he was in the World Championship in 2012 with Odendahl in Moto2. And this man was also racing, so the top 3 riders have all competed in the World Championship before. There's a thing. Fantastic result, and dedicating his win to the late great Ángel Nieto. And now we wait for the Spanish national anthem in just a few moments, but not before. We have the petrol checks presented to the race winner of Ricky Cardo's. A great result there for him. Falls over the back as well. And now the national anthem of Spain.
Fuerte el aplauso para el vencedor, para los componentes del podium en esta categoría del europeo de Moto2. Buen trabajo, buena ceremonia. Y un poquito, ¿queréis foto o queréis cava? Venga, elegid. ¿Queréis foto o cava? Venga, foto. Les gusta la fiesta para el final. Vamos con la foto. Ahí los tenemos.
Posing for the photograph now, of course, with Laura Martinez on the right-hand side. And it's Stephen
Odendahl, Eric Granado, Ricky Cardouz. Y ahora sí que sí, el cava que es
they spray the champagne. Fortunately, these guys are old enough. It's probably the only champagne that will actually be sprayed on the podium for this weekend, actually, comes to think of it. I suppose it saves money, of course, if nothing else. Meanwhile, here we go then with the championship standings in the European Moto2 Championships. How does it sit after Jerez, I hear you ask? Well, it sits like this. Eric Granado, now 20 points is the gap between himself and Ricky Cardouz. Odendahl, 43 points adrift in third place. Hector Garzo with that non-finish, still there in fourth place, but 73 points adrift. Meanwhile, Joe Roberts is also in contention for taking away fourth place from the Spanish rider. Just inside the top 10, Xavier Cardelus, who's not racing due to a broken hand. Jason Uribe with that top 10 finish moves up to within 1 point of that top 10 place in the championship. David Sanchis in 12th place, Hamish Syrin in 13th, of course. Corentin Polari, then comes Pontus Durland, Philippe Legallo, Fausto Jose Granton, then comes Carlos Fidaglo, who has competed, of course, in the championship before, Paul Dufour, Laura Martinez, and Jurka Makulka, who, of course, we haven't seen out so far for the last half of this season. Big shame there for that. Nonetheless, that is how the title sits, with 20 points separating the top 2 of Granado and Cardouz as we go into the next round of the championship in Estoril in the second weekend of October. So as you can see, the fans watching on, getting ready for another race to come here this afternoon, the Moto3 Junior World Championship. We'll talk about the race results, or the results of race 1, very, very shortly, of course, when we get the broadcast underway for that. and we're looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. But that'll be along the way very, very shortly indeed. The second race for the Moto3 Junior World Championship is getting tight at the top. The championship is going to be anybody's to play for as well if we're not too careful. As you can see, everybody watching on, and it looks like it's going to be quite hot out there. You can see a few parasols and a few umbrellas that have gone up. Fran, what's the temperature like outside?
It's not too bad. Certainly not overheating too much on the way to the podium in Parc Fermé. But no, it's nice and warm. You know, this is one of the great advantages of racing down here when it's a bit later in the season, because you still get fantastic weather most of the time.
You certainly do. Anyway, we've got Moto3 Junior World Championship on the way for you next.